This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
G'day everybody, thanks so much for tuning in, I appreciate it. This episode features a conversation with Accept frontman Mark Tornillo. Now the chat took place back in July of 2017. It has been available via the Scars and Guitars podcast and all the usual podcast outlets really ever since then. And it's been getting great traction. I'm not going to say I don't know why. A conversation with Mark Tornillo is always a bit of a thrill, but it's one of those episodes that has taken on a bit of a life of its own through the podcast app, so here it is, repurposed for the YouTube audience. Now, throughout this conversation here, well, the compelling event was twofold. There was a new album on the horizon back in those days, The Rise of Chaos, which saw light of day on August 1st, and there was an Australian tour, which I think from memory was the more significant compelling event behind the chat. Throughout the conversation though, there's a broad range of topics covered, such as the popularity or otherwise of TT Quick in Australia. Had no idea who they were before talking to Mark actually, but apparently, according to the man himself, there are fans down under. Something else I did, I probably laboured the point a bit too much, but he's now almost 70 years of age. Okay, so if this chat took place in 2017 when he was 63, and we're now 6 years after the fact, man, for a fella that's nearing 70 years of age, he looks fantastic. But yeah, I probably laboured the point a bit too much. And anyway, he took it like a champion because he is a good bloke and he's a great frontman and vocalist, I must say. So here he is, Mark Tornillo from Accept.
I'm going to open up our chat with an excerpt from a review that I wrote for the Metal Forge publication. So here goes. Frank Tornillo's energy and faithful, yet contemporary take on Udo Dirkschneider's vocal have the potential to bring Accept's brand of high-octane pre-thrash to a brand new audience of younger and more likely impressionable listeners. This in turn ensures that the band remain relevant and is seen as far more than a nostalgia act jammed with imitators and animated mannequins. Such as Tornillo's influence on the songs, one could parachute into the listening experience on this album, that's the live album, none the wiser to Dirkschneider's absence. It has been said that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. However, it is an entirely different proposition to imitate and improve, and Tornillo may have just done that. So on that note, mate, congratulations on doing what so many have tried in heavy metal, yet very few have actually achieved. What do you love about being an Accept?
Wow. I like that quote. Wow, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, we try. That's for sure. You know, I mean, I like the fact that, you know, we are try to be relevant, you know, and not just a nostalgia act. You know, try to make new music and try to make the old music sound the way it's supposed to sound. And I'm glad people appreciate it.
Yeah, it really surprised me when you came into the band because I'm not like a long time or an old fan of Accept or anything like that, but I've been listening to heavy metal for 25 years, so I did have some background on killer cuts such as Balls to the Wall and all of the hits that Wolf and his compadres have composed over the years. But when I heard you come in, I thought, holy shit, who's this bloke? Because I thought you might have been in a band from Europe or when I say a well-known US band, I know you've had some association with the lads in Overkill, so I'll ask you a question about that a bit later on. But, mate, you seem to come from out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, the band that I was in for years, TT Quick, was really, obscure in other parts of the world. We had a decent following in the United States. We were signed to Megaforce. We were signed to Island for a while. Yep. And just never really became big, you know. It was definitely not a household name by any by any means. So, yeah, I guess I kind of did come out of nowhere, you know.
Yeah, I probably should have reframed that and said
bazillion-year overnight success, you know.
Yes, that's the old-fashioned saying, isn't it, mate? You've clearly been plying your craft on the stages around the States for many years, and of course, I don't think many Australian listeners had actually heard of you beforehand. But yeah, mate, you certainly made a big impact. That's for sure.
I don't doubt it that they hadn't heard of me. That's for sure. But surprisingly enough, though, I signed quite a few TT Quick albums when I was over there. So you never know.
You never know. Yep, you never know. Mate, the band That's Accept does have a new album that will be released on the 1st of August, and it is called The Rise of Chaos. What can you tell the listeners about it?
Yes. It's wow. I'm really enjoying it. I'll tell you that. We had a great time making it. I think it's a little heavier, possibly, than Blind Rage. A little darker, but more of the same. I mean, we're certainly not trying to reinvent the wheel. I think we just try to, stay within what we do well, and try and keep it fresh. Maybe write new music and try and make it sound classic, but be fresh and new, and use new technology. And it's quite refreshing for us to be able to just do this again after all those years of not recording albums. And I think that's why we just keep popping them out, just because it's, you do the tour and then you're like, well, we have to make a new record, don't we? Well, let's go do it. And that's always the way it was when we were all, doing this back in the 80s and 90s. So we're enjoying it.
Yep, fantastic. And we are glad you are as fans, let me assure you. And now this next question, I'm pretty sure you've been asked by every single person in your Australian media run here, but gosh, I'm going to ask it as well. You do have a lot of fans here in Australia, and you are travelling all the way here for a solitary show in Melbourne in September. So how come only the single show?
Well, from what I understand, I have nothing to do with booking. I have nothing to do with any of that. So what I have heard, though, is that this, it's a one-off. We're going to play Japan. When we leave Japan, we're coming for a one-off show in Melbourne. And from what I understand, we will be back to do a complete tour.
Okay, wonderful. Yep.
Probably in 2018. That's the way it's looking.
Uh-huh.
The tour is just beginning now. The tour isn't even started yet. It will begin in September. So we're actually going to do a series of album release parties throughout the U.S., and I think that's really the way they're looking at this in Melbourne, is that it's kind of an album release party in just major cities. Then the tour itself will actually start, from there on out.
Yep. Mate, that makes complete sense.
The way I'm hearing that we're going to be back, and we'll be doing multiple cities. So
yeah, I'd love to see you in Brisbane, mate. That's where I'm from.
And I hope so.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people down here do feel that way.
We didn't make it last time.
Yes, that's it.
I would love to get out there. Believe me.
So you do share a home state with the great Blitz Bailey from Overkill, and you've even appeared on an album with the band. Can you tell us about your friendship with Blitz and the members of Overkill?
Man, I've known Blitz since, we used to play at the same clubs, I would say, in the late 70s, early 80s, very early 80s. And him and I kind of reconnected again after I joined Accept. We were playing, I think it was a Bang Your Head festival in Germany, and I hadn't seen Bobby in a while. And found out they were playing, and we just kind of ran into each other backstage in the dressing area and hung out, and, we all had a blast. Because it was like a New Jersey reunion between him and everybody else in the band and myself. And then about I guess it was not long after that, him and I got him involved in doing a benefit show here in the U.S. that I was working on, and he jumped on board, and we still do it every year. We're actually going to be doing it next. It's August 27th over here. It's for muscular dystrophy. And it gets bigger every year. It's a really, really cool benefit. But he came on board, did that with me, and then asked me if I would consider singing a song with him on the Overkill album. And I was like, of course I will. Cool. So then we did that. So now, him and I talk quite often, and hopefully we get to see each other on the road again once in a while. So
cool. Yep.
We actually did a show together. We did a Accept and Overkill in New York City at in Times Square at the I think it's called PlayStation Theater now. It was Best Buy Theater then.
Okay. Yep.
But that was a killer night.
Yeah, that'd be a wonderful double bill, mate. Just a slight hint, if you are coming back here in 2018, it'd be awesome if you could bring Overkill with you, if you ever have a say in the bands that can come with you or support.
Hey, you wouldn't get an argument from me. You wouldn't get an argument from me. That's for sure.
Excellent.
More Americans, yeah.
Yeah. Not a bad thing, especially on the music front. So much great music comes from the US, mate, and your good self, as I say, you've certainly taken a lot of people by, I don't want to say by surprise, mate, but a lot of people are super impressed with what you've done. And, mate, I love Overkill in particular,
thank you.
Have a broad fan base down here to the extent where they even recorded a live album, I think it was in Sydney or Melbourne about 10 or 15 years ago. So, anyway, food for thought. Yeah. So this next question... is a bit of
They've been making some great records lately as well. Jeez, the last one was killer.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, I actually went to the extent of buying it on cassette because cassettes have become all the rage again. I don't know whether you know that, but I've got young daughters and...
vinyl's been all the rage here. I haven't seen any cassettes, really. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I bought their new album, The Grinding Gear or The Grinding Wheel, I think the name of the record is. And
yeah.
I bought it on... I even went to the extent of buying a little shoebox cassette player. So I've been playing it around the house. I've got two young daughters. And,
no kidding.
Yeah, so I've been playing the Overkill album, the newbie from... These are another new... Oh, no, Overkill are a New Jersey band, but neighbouring state, New York.
That's crazy.
Immolation, I've been playing their new album on cassette. Yeah, Nuclear Blast have been releasing them all.
What's next, 8 tracks?
Maybe. Maybe, yeah. It's sort of trending in that direction. Yeah, you never know, do you? You know. All right.
Unbelievable. Yeah, well, vinyl is all the rage over here again. You know, it's nuts. Sell more vinyl than CDs. CDs, I think they're going to stop making them.
Yeah, and look, I know a lot of people disagree with me on this point, and I can kind of understand that. I don't really see the place for CDs these days with MP3s and FLAC files. Vinyl, I definitely see.
Right.
It has a place in a music collector's, in a music fan's collection. The reason for that is you've actually got an artifact. You've got this giant, not giant compared to a CD. It's a lot bigger, but you've got the artwork. You can actually read.
Agree.
You can read all of the liner notes, which include the thank yous. And I remember you probably did the same thing, mate. But I remember as a young fan reading the liner notes on Faith No More and Megadeth albums and wanting to find out who the hell these bands were that they were thanking. And that's a lost art. Yeah,
I agree. I totally agree. You need a magnifying glass to read them on the CDs. So.
Oh, you do, and that was my point. Yeah, you do. You need a magnifying glass. So I think it's got to the point now, and I haven't bought a CD, admittedly, in about, it'd be years, 10, 15 years or something. But I think the last one, I can actually tell you the last one I bought, it was Celtic Frost Monotheist, so that was 2006, so that's 12 or 13 years ago now. Yeah, and I can't actually recall what was in the liner notes there, but I do remember in the lead up to that buying CDs, and the liner notes weren't what they used to be, I can assure you. There was no big, long thank you list.
Oh, no.
You'd even see the same guitar text in metal album sleeves pop up in different albums. You'd even go down to that finite degree of investigation when you're a real fan of this genre. So yeah. Anyway, vinyl maybe making that, maybe reinvigorating that aspect of it, so as more people get thanks in albums. But
there's a whole lot more romance involved, I think, with with the vinyl, especially the gatefold vinyl. When you get that fold out, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, what was your favorite vinyl release growing up, or favorite vinyl releases growing up?
Oh my God! I grew up in the 60s and 70s, so I used to stay at the store waiting for new Beatle albums to come out. Then they came out with the White Album, and there was nothing on it. It's like, what is this? giant gatefold vinyl. There's nothing written on it, and you open it up, and there was 4 pictures, and that was it. But I'm screaming for vengeance, and
Yes.
And Unleashed in the East were just amazing records for me on vinyl. Definitely on vinyl, you know.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. No, I haven't got too much Priest, I've got to say, but I'm going to... Priest Live is an album that I know a lot of fans don't like. You know, the one with the bronze album cover or copper album cover? That's an album I've been trying to seek out on vinyl now for some time, because I don't think that they repressed that one during the reissues that they did a few years back. But yeah, Beatles albums and the like, mate, they all. I think you've got to listen to a record in the original format that it was recorded. So that means that for the Beatles, you go back and you listen to it on vinyl. It's all recorded on analog equipment.
Yep, exactly. Beatles and Stones, they're definitely vinyl. Digital, I don't know how that even works.
Well, I don't think it sounds the
same.
same.
All into one.
Yeah. You're right, mate.
I'm sorry?
Oh, I just don't think it sounds the same.
It doesn't. It totally does not. But it is what it is.
Okay, so my next question, I don't think I've ever asked this of anybody else before, so I ask this also with the greatest of respect, okay? So you are in great shape, and it hints at something you just mentioned a moment ago, as in that you grew up through the 60s and 70s, and the question is, you are in great shape, which is absolutely required when touring and performing. You're also 63 years of age, if I'm correct there on your age, and it's older than my father was.
Yes, I turned 63 in June.
So that's older. Well, that's great.
Really?
Well, it's great, mate. It's older than my father was when he passed away due to cancer many years ago. So I need to ask, because you look like you're 20 or 30 years younger. What type of exercise regime do you follow, and what tips do you offer to people out there that are looking to get into shape and need some encouragement on improving their health?
Well, I don't know that I look 20 or 30 years younger than I am, but thank you for that compliment. I've always just kind of stayed in shape, you know? I mean, it's difficult to get in shape when you're out of shape, I would imagine, but I've never really been that far out of shape. I've always maintained an exercise regimen. I've always gone to the gym. I still do. I was at the gym this afternoon. And I watch what I eat. People always ask me, how do you stay thin? So, well, here's what I do is when my pants get tight, I stop eating. I don't buy new pants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you just keep expanding, you're going to expand, aren't you? So, and that's always been my philosophy. You can always back off and I can eat tomorrow. I'll eat more tomorrow. But I don't know. I think it's a frame of mind as well, too. You got to want to be young. You want to feel young and look young, or else you won't. You just kind of give up, I think, sometimes. And I'm not quite ready to give up yet, so.
Yeah, no, good on you, mate. And do you have, if you don't mind me asking this question, of course, mate, feel free to tell me to bugger off, but have you got kids?
Yes, grown kids.
Grown kids, yeah.
A 30-year-old daughter. And my son is 23. He'll be 24 in December. So,
what do they think about their old?
And they're coming to Vakken with us.
Oh, really? Okay, so they're right into the middle.
Neither one
as
of
well.
my children have ever. Yeah, they've never been to Europe, and they're coming to Vakken, so they're just a little bit excited. So,
I can understand that. And what do they think about their old man being the front man of one of the most revered heavy metal bands of all time? I think at first they didn't really get it, but they kind of get it now. So they're both enjoying it. It's kind of crazy. My son is, will run into people and their parents will go, "Is your father the guy that accepts? Wow, that's great. Holy crap!" So he constantly gets it. It's kind of funny. Yeah, cool, mate. Yeah,
strange for them, I think, but
I'd think it'd be great. I think you're with again, with the greatest of respect, I say this. I mean, you're out there performing in front of tens of thousands of people when a lot of people of the similar vintage are thinking about retiring. And mate, you're just turning it up a notch every night.
Yeah.
So
I'm not quite ready to retire yet. So.
No, I don't blame you for that one at all.
That's all right.
I think you've said something in there that's really important. Is you were never out of shape. You've kept yourself in shape all the way through, so you've never felt that lethargy or that sincere form of tiredness that overcomes human beings when they've been working for a career for 40 years. You know, by keeping yourself in shape, you've been able to keep that vitality.
It's well, and again, the kids keep you young too, you know, and but it really is a frame of mind. I think more than anything, if you allow yourself to be old, you'll be old. You know, you have to fight it.
You do,
for lack of a better word, or else it will take you down. You know, I mean, age is not just a chronological thing; it's a mental thing, I think, as well. You know, obviously it's a physical thing, and luckily I don't. You know, I've been blessed enough not to have any major illnesses or that sort of thing too. I mean, sometimes you just can't. You know, you're not in control of what you're doing because you become sick. But I've been lucky in that respect. So.
Yeah, cool, mate. Yep. Okay, so I'm up to my final 3 questions, and I do ask these 3 questions of all of my interview subjects, so I would love it if you could humour me here, Mark, and your answers can be as not safe for work as you like. So here goes. Here's the first question.
All right.
Choose 3 words to describe yourself.
Three words to describe myself. Thirsty. I do like to drink beer.
Don't we all?
I'd say energetic.
Definitely, yep.
And unfortunately old.
All right, okay. Next question. If you could go back to when you were 18 years of age and give yourself some advice, what do you think you'd say?
Oh, my goodness. Write music now.
Yeah, it's good advice, actually. To any musician, make sure you're writing music, yeah. Do you think you would have done anything?
But, I mean, you should have really concentrated on it, you know.
Yeah, I understand. And do you think you would have potentially have looked at another genre outside of hard rock or heavy metal, given you were a Beatles fan and it sounds like a bit of a Stones fan as well, if you had your time over again?
I was always a rock fan. You know, that was the thing back in the day. You know, there was rock music, and that was it. It was rock. Beatles were considered rock. Everything was rock. There was no genres. There was no punk. There was no, no pigeonhole stuff. It was just rock. Bad Company was a rock band. Led Zeppelin was a rock band. You know, so
yeah.
I would have played rock definitely.
Rock. Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it.
No matter what.
I think there's such a emphasis on genres these days, and it's almost impossible to keep up with the genres and the subgenres, and it's polymorphic, isn't it?
It is.
You know?
Yeah, I mean that's why. I mean, I like bands that you can't pigeonhole. You know, and that don't play that game. I mean, we're considered a classic metal band, I guess, but I think Accept is a rock band. You know,
yeah,
the way we go out, the mentality that we have. You know,
I certainly agree with that perspective, no doubt about that. I think when I think now, I only refer to you guys as heavy metal because that's the way the media does and most fans do. But when I think of putting on a great rock and roll record,
I do as well.
Yeah, but when I think of putting on a great rock and roll record, it's one of your ones. You know what I mean? I'm not reaching for a lot of other things, and a lot of people refer to it as metal, but I'm with you, mate. I think of it as rock and roll.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, my final question. Here we go. What 5 guests from any time in history, living or dead, would you invite to dinner?
What time period would I like to live in? Is that what you're asking me?
No, what 5 guests, living or dead, from any time in history would you invite to dinner?
Oh, 5 guests. Okay. Wow. Bon Scott, for sure. Living or dead, huh? Living or dead. Wow, this is a tough one. Paul McCartney.
Yep.
Notice they're all musicians so far.
That's all right. That makes sense. You're a musician.
Yeah, well, don't really want any politicians or movie stars. Who else? Marilyn Monroe. That would be interesting.
Wow. Okay. Haven't had her before. There you go.
Maybe Elvis.
Okay. Cool. Yep.
And one more. Let's see. Living or dead, huh? Wow, this is tough.
This one stumps people, yeah.
Maybe, I'm trying to think. Maybe John F. Kennedy.
Wow, okay.
Speaking of politicians, then I could find that, just so I could find out who killed him.
Well, you mentioned Marilyn Monroe in there too, and I was going to ask you, do you think you'd ever, in a situation like this, if it could ever be arranged, I'm sure on an alternative dimension it could be arranged, but would you ask her how her life ended as well? Because there's a lot of conjecture about that as well.
Yeah, maybe. And Elvis the same way, Well, we kind of know how his ended, but
yeah, that's a very interesting list there.
Those are the icons from my childhood, actually. So it's kind of weird. McCartney as well.
Yeah,
Bon Scott, he's just one of my heroes. So.
Well, yeah. Actually, I can hear the parallels in your approach and your stage presence, actually, the parallels in your approach to being on stage in Bonds, actually. And you're probably aware, mate, he's Australian, so he's revered as a saint for just about every rock band that's plying their trade.
With good reason. With good reason. He was a genius.
Yeah.
He's a rock and roll animal.
Yeah, very unfortunate end for him as well, but I suppose he lived life on the edge and in some way. Yeah, you're right.
He was a great lyricist too. Not just an amazing frontman and singer, but what a great lyricist. I mean, he was like a simplistic genius. Had ways of turning little things around and just making them brilliant.
Yeah, did you ever hear the story behind how he came up with the title for "She's Got the Jack" and the lyrics in that song?
No.
Okay, I hope I get this right. So any Bond fans out there and any members of his family, if I've got this incorrect, let me know. I understand that he had some kind of a venereal disease at the time and he was dating or being amorous with various women or women were being amorous with him, I think it was, and he picked up something from them and then from the stage he pointed at the women who actually had this particular disease when he's singing "She's Got the Jack" and he's pointing.
Oh my goodness!
Now I read that somewhere. A while ago.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I read that somewhere a while ago, so I haven't got that correct. But yeah, it sounds like it'd be something Bond would do.
Heard the stories about a whole lot of Rosie for sure.
Yes. Yes, and AC/DC when they played down here recently, actually they played down here. I think we were the last country to see them with Brian fronting the band, and yeah, they had the big woman behind them when they played Whole Lot of Rosie. That was pretty exciting to see that.
Bon Scott was a character, boy, wasn't he? Holy mackerel. I think it's a shame that with this whole thing with Brian as well, too. I think, I wish they would just come to their senses and get him back. But
yeah,
we'll have to see what happens.
Look, I agree. And look, I didn't see them with Axl because I know they only did some North American and some European dates with Axl, but I wouldn't even mind if he continued on in some way, to be honest. I think Axl seems to have turned over a new leaf, so to speak, and he's turning up to gigs on time, and the performances that I've seen that have been recorded by fans on YouTube and that the band's released on their Facebook page and the like of Axl fronting the band, he did a killer job.
He's definitely singing better than he has in a long time, so.
Yeah, no, agreed. I don't know where it came from, but turns out, I mean, he was always a great singer on studio albums, but live I always felt back in the day that he left a bit to be desired. There wasn't the preparation there because of all of the partying, but mate, lately he's just, the show that he did in Brisbane at the beginning of the year, mate, he floored me the way that he was singing. It was excellent.
Oh, Good to hear. Good to hear.
So that's it from me, mate. Any final words of wisdom for those that are listening?
Words of wisdom. Beware the rise of chaos. We will see you very shortly in September, right there in Melbourne. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. I hope we don't disappoint, and I'm sure we will try. We will surely try not to.
Mate, I don't think it's possible for you guys, especially your good self, to disappoint anybody, such as the ferocity of the performance on stage that I've seen on YouTube and all the rest of it. So, mate, I'd love to shake your hand and have a beer with you down here. I don't know if that can be arranged, but yeah, it'd be great to catch up.
I'm sure it can. I'm easy to get along with, brother. So please come to the show and just make it known. We'll hook up. Okay?
Thanks very much, mate. I really appreciate your time.
Another good one, run and done. That was Mark Tornillo from Accept. Yeah, hope you liked that one. It's taken on a bit of a life of its own, that episode, since it's been launched on the podcast apps back in 2017. So here it is for YouTube, as I mentioned in the introduction. Okay, if you like that chat, there are many more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com. Click on the podcast link and you'll be taken to a universe of conversations featuring the leading lights from hard rock, heavy metal, extreme metal, punk rock, and a little bit more and beyond. Yep. And if you like listening, maybe you like reading too, because I've written a book, Scars and Guitars Volume 1, Conversations from the World of Heavy Metal and Beyond, etc. Click the link in the banner on the website and you'll be taken to a marketplace of your choice. And you can download a sample, try before you buy, and if you do complete the purchase, do hit me up because I want to thank you personally. On that note, there's some more information to share with you about the book, why you should invest some time in reading about these conversations. But before we get to that, I need to bid you a fond farewell. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. Until next time, it is a very goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, you know, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes
to get sober. John 5 answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
You know, my name is John 5, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Trey Exagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.